Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic stories. From stock markets to currency news, Business Review covers the most up-to-date stories in the global financial world.
The Tivoli amusement park in Copenhagen opened its doors after 2.5 months of keeping closed due to the virus. In order to satisfy Denmark's social distancing requirements, the famous landmark had come up with many creative solutions and innovations to help guests keep a distance. Teddy bears on every other seat of one of the world's oldest roller coasters ensure distance between the thrill seekers out. Tivoli employers wear specially decorated plastic shields, and Tivoli has also developed an amusement park entry app in order to ensure there are no queues or visitor hotspots. In the app, you simply choose which ride you'd like to try, how many you are, and then the app tells you when it's the time to make your way to one of Tivoli's 32 rides. The app also shows you how to order food for pickup in many stalls. Tivoli normally welcomes over 5 million visitors a year, but due to the virus closure and limited capacity, visitors' numbers this year are expected to be historically low.
Indonesian motorcycle taxi driver Aji used to spend his days carrying clients through traffic gridlocks, helping them get to their appointments in time. But since the coronavirus pandemic started, he has been spending most of his time at rest areas with fellow drivers, waiting for delivery jobs, as people stay home afraid of catching or spreading the virus. Local media quoted Indonesia's motorcycle taxi driver labor network as saying that the income of motorcycle taxi drivers has dropped by 70% due to the pandemic. A father of 4 young children and a Gojek Employee of the Year, Aji is a good example. He now earns around $0.70 to $3.50 a day, compared to $13 to $20 before the pandemic. Aji and his family were evicted from their flat after they were unable to pay the rent, and now they live in a 6-square-meter room on the property of a friend in Bogor, a West Java city located south of Jakarta. His wife is ill and cannot work, so Aji is the sole breadwinner. Gojek said they have provided benefits like packaged food handouts to their staff to tide over the difficult period. They have also given their staff vouchers to buy daily necessities and have collected donations for the drivers and their families to help tide them over. The firm also helped to negotiate motorbike leases on behalf of all drivers to make sure they can return their vehicles. Capital Jakarta started to ease restrictions on June 5th, with public transportation resuming normal operations and houses of worship reopening, although with restrictions. But a few neighboring cities like Aji's Bogor, which are a part of the Greater Jakarta area, is still bound by restrictions. He has now started traveling an hour to go to North Jakarta, where curbs have been lifted, with hopes that he can get more business. Motorcycle drivers are now allowed to take passengers again, but with health measures such as passengers using their own home and maintaining social distancing between the driver and passenger with a plastic barrier in between. But customers have been slow to hit the road, and many drivers still don't have much work. Lack of work and earnings is a predicament facing many Indonesians. Finance Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati said the coronavirus epidemic has set the country's poverty eradication efforts back a decade, with more than 2 million people losing their jobs. Offices and malls would open in the city of 10 million over the next 2 weeks, as the number of deaths in the Indonesian capital is on a downward trend. But interventions would be made if the situation worsens. Analysis from the World Health Organization shows Jakarta does not meet its criteria to relax restrictions, including a 50% drop in cases since the last peak, and a rate of infections below 5% of those tested. Jakarta's infection rate has remained above 10%.
The U.S. Federal Reserve signaled it would provide years of extraordinary support for an economy facing a tortuous slog back from the virus, with policymakers projecting a 6.5% decline in GDP and a 9.3% unemployment rate at the end of the year. In the first economic projections of the pandemic, the U.S. central bank policymakers put into numbers what had been an emerging narrative that measures put in place to battle a health crisis will echo through the economy for years to come. The projections show the unemployment rate falling to 6.5% at the end of 2021 and 5.5% at the end of the following year. That's a full 2 percentage points above where it was at the end of last year, representing millions of lost years of work. The response officials see the key overnight interest rate or Federal Reserve fund rate remaining near zero at least through 2022. The decision to leave that rate unchanged was unanimous. In remarks that acknowledged the nationwide against racial inequality that erupted in recent weeks, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said the central bank was committed to trying to restore jobs and growth to wherever they're needed. That rebound is expected to begin in earnest in 2021. But the pandemic, which has killed more than 112,000 Americans so far, has now thrown them into what may be a years-long fight to bring Americans back to work after some 20 million jobs were lost from March through to May.
Go out, we can't stay at home. That was the message from Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador as the government considers a gradual reopening of the economy despite rising coronavirus cases. Officials of the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization have said that Mexico has yet to reach peak infections, recommending that officials boost testing before any wide-scale economic reopening and stick to safety measures, including social distancing. Government figures showed nearly 600 deaths added to the official count as total infections rose to 124,301. Overall, reported deaths stood at 14,649. The government previously predicted the pandemic would peak in early May, and under US pressure has begun reopening its car-making industry, which has since been deemed essential. In Mexico City's bustling fruit and vegetable markets, vendors said they have no choice but to go out and work. Although public health experts have encouraged the public to keep their distance, these workers say they have not received any support from the Mexican government and that a day off work is a day without money.
After nearly 3 months of lockdown, New York City entered the first phase of its plan to lift major COVID-19 related restrictions. According to New York State government, the plan allows for non-essential retailers to reopen with curbside or in-store pickup, while allowing operations in construction, manufacturing and wholesale to resume. More than 30,000 construction sites will reopen during the first phase. Up to 400,000 New Yorkers are expected to return to work. The officials of the New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the MTA, said the city's subway service will be running at 95% pre-pandemic levels. The retail industry in New York City was particularly hard bit by COVID-19, with small businesses mainly feeling the pinch. Retailers can now offer curbside service, but the problem for smaller shops is their lack of online presence, which makes it hard for customers to know what's available in stock. Tracy Morse, manager of Down and Quilt Shop in Manhattan, said to survive, the store needs to get back up and running as quickly as possible. Only a few customers are allowed to enter the store at a time, provided they wear a face mask and maintain social distancing. It could be a while before retailers can open their doors wider. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said earlier this month the city could be ready for Phase 2 reopening by July.
Business Review, your daily source for the most critical stories in the financial world. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.